A new look Matt Eberflus and our new offensive and defensive coordinators met with the press. What's up, guys? The Chicago Bears have finally finished filling out the entire coaching staff. Chris Morgan has been promoted to the new run game coordinator. He served as the O-line coach for the last 2 seasons. The new look Matt Eberflus was just something you have to see for yourself. He looks like a guy who got his swagger back, to be honest. It was great to see the new Flus. Matt Eberflus did seem to take some shots about Luke Getsy's inability to adapt to his players' skill sets. He didn't call out Getsy by name, but he talked specifically about what the new coaches and Waldron bring to this offense. And then Eric Washington was next up. He was very thankful to return to the Chicago Bears, the place he first started his NFL coaching career. I love what Washington brings to the table. As a defensive line specialist, I think he can really aid in the development of our young defensive tackles, Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens, as well as any other guys added this year via the NFL draft. He talked about building the best pass rush available and that the Bears will get pressure from the front four next season. Eric said he's very familiar with both of our young defensive tackles, and he's excited to work with them. Our new defensive coordinator said him and Eberflus would come up with game plans together, that they will collaborate week in and week out. He did say that Eberflus will remain the play caller on the defensive side of the ball, with Washington ready at any time to take over if needed. He did seem to hint that there could be a big move coming on this defensive line. Stay tuned for that one, guys. And then it was Shane Waldron time. He said the biggest reason the Bears hired him was his adaptability on offense and his ability to work with players no matter who they are by building towards their skill sets and being adaptable. That was clearly the word of the day, being able to adapt, which Flus hinted that the previous regime was unable to do, especially in game. To me, this did kind of hint at being able to get the most out of Justin Fields, but also being able to get the most out of any QB, whether it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or Tyson Bagent. Waldron was very careful with his words, and he danced around any Justin Fields or Caleb Williams question directly. He did say he has talked to Justin Fields and exchanged messages. He didn't bring up a single player or mention anyone by name. He was very careful and prepared with his answers to make sure not to give away anything in terms of the Bears' plans at the quarterback position. But I listened 3 or 4 times, and I think there's one part that is a real big takeaway for me. First, he mentioned the explosive off-schedule plays he saw on film. There was only one player that did that. That screams Justin Fields to me. This is when he was asked about what excited him on offense, and he talked about the explosive off-schedule plays. Who else on this offense created explosive off-schedule plays other than Justin Fields? I'm not saying any of those 3 rookie quarterbacks can't do the same thing, but this was a direct question to last year's Chicago Bears and what he saw on film. That was his biggest takeaway and favorite thing from the film last year. Explosive off-schedule plays. While he carefully directed every comment to say his scheme can work with any QB and he can adapt, the comment about the Bears' explosive off-schedule plays last year really caught my attention. And then he also had one other quote that really caught my eye as well. He said he was really excited about the playmakers on this offense, but then here's his quote about the quarterback position specifically. Waldron said, "At the quarterback position, we have the ability to be explosive, to be a playmaker, to work off schedule. You know, those are all good pieces to an offense that finished strong last year, and I'm looking to see how we as an offense can look to build upon that." Those words were very interesting to me. He's excited about the explosive playmaker we have at the quarterback position and his ability to work off schedule, and he says as a coaching staff, they're looking to see how they can build upon that. While he was very careful with his words, and he didn't mention a single player by name, that last comment echoed as a positive reinforcement towards working with Justin Fields this season, if you ask me. Just think about it carefully one more time. He's talking about last year's film, and he goes out of his way to bring up the quarterback position, how they have an explosive playmaker who can work off schedule, and how the coaching staff wants to build upon that. How do you build upon that if you're trading him away? That just doesn't make sense to me, so that comment stuck out. Now, I will add some more to this. Coordinators do not make those decisions. Neither Shane Waldron or Eric Washington will be deciding who we draft on draft day. But Ryan Poles is big on collaboration and getting input from his coordinators. He talked about getting input from Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy during last year's draft. But if we remember previous regimes, John Fox was our head coach when we drafted Mitch Trubisky, and he had no idea that Mitch was going to be the pick. He thought we were taking a defensive player or Deshaun Watson. So there's definitely a chance here that Waldron himself has no idea which quarterback he's going to be working with this year. But the bottom line is, even if he does, Poles is not going to let him tell anyone. However, that comment clearly showed me that Waldron would be excited to work with Justin Fields. And it's not hard to see why. He had a ton of success with Geno Smith, who at that point of his career had done next to nothing. Fields has shown so much more ability as a playmaker than Geno had before he got with Waldron. So to say that Waldron would be excited to work with Justin Fields, I think that's an easy assumption to make. But I also believe that Waldron would be excited to work with a QB we would take in the top 3 too. But he did make one other interesting point about that. He said quarterbacks are more about the person than the tape eval, and that they won't even meet these 3 quarterbacks until the combine. So they have no idea what kind of personality or person they are. So that is something to remember here. If the major news reports are true, that the Bears are close to making a decision at QB, how can they be that close without even meeting these young QBs at the combine yet? To me, it hints that we will be trading the pick. I don't have any inside sources. Like always, I'm just connecting the dots and telling you guys what I think is going to happen and what makes the most sense. I have not ruled out Poles drafting a QB. Even if we trade down to pick number 2, I wouldn't rule it out completely. There's definitely a chance that Ryan Poles could say, I like all 3 of these QBs. Let's trade down to number 2 and get some extra picks if Washington wants Caleb that bad. But I would hope in that situation, if he goes to number 2, that like me, he falls in love with Marvin Harrison, who I know Shane Waldron would love. I don't know if there's a receiver in the NFL as freakishly gifted as DK Metcalf, who Waldron worked with in Seattle. Marv is the closest thing you can find to a DK in this draft, and he could actually have a higher ceiling. So that's just another thing to remember. It was great to finally hear from our new offensive and defensive coordinators. I loved Flus's swag, and other than the quote about the quarterback position, my biggest takeaway is that I think another big move is coming for this defensive line. I think another defensive end is going to be either signed via free agency or drafted in the first 3 rounds. Our new defensive coordinator seemed to hint that Poles would give him the resources to build one of the best defensive lines in football. I think there could be a surprise addition coming to this front 4 on the Bears defense soon. Stay tuned. I'll be here covering it every step of the way. I have a special coming tonight, me talking with Glenn Morgan about his favorite NFL draft prospects. Please remember to hit that like button for me. Also, don't miss my Malik Neighbors scouting report I dropped last night. And until next time, bear down.